Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Bows Free channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at London, Ontario, Canada, and its potential old world implications it has. I was on a little day trip about a month ago there to Rockland Falls, which you saw in one of my previous videos there. The night spontaneously took me and my girlfriend up here to London, Ontario, and it just so happened we parked right next to one of the most magnificent buildings I have had the pleasure of seeing in person. That is this London Life Insurance building. As we'll pop right down here to the Google Street View so you can get a quick little peek at that before we get into the photos and videos that I took myself. But just look at this. We roll in late at night, and there's lights on all of these pillars just lighting it up. Absolutely gorgeous. And that's when I knew that destiny and fate has taken us on this trip for a reason and took us all the way to London. As we zoom back out here, you'll see that there's lots and lots of these old world buildings, all within a very, very small vicinity around each other here. The first place that we looked at here was St. Paul's Cathedral, which absolutely blew me away with its brickwork here and the very interesting swastikas ordained on the top of this building. And with its size and the amount of work that must have been put into this, the population at the time in London was very, very small. And I find it very odd that it is right across the street, literally directly across the street from one of the most beautiful buildings that I have seen next to this London Life Insurance one. We have right here St. Paul's, I believe, or St. Peter's, one of the P's, Basilica and Cathedral here, which we will look into a little more with the videos that we took on the ground here. So the majority of our investigation here today will be including all these buildings that you see highlighted here on Google Earth within this few block radius, which just within this few block, excluding Talbot Street Church, just from St. Peter's and St. Paul's all the way over, we have roughly 5 very massive, very beautiful, very ancient looking churches, structures, whatever they were really used for in the past. Healing temples, frequency generators, we don't know, but excuse me there. Ooh, the cinnamon and turmeric in the coffee is getting to the throat there. Yeah, but like I said, all of these buildings within this very small vicinity here, encapsulating old London here, and one of the most peculiar and interesting and specific designs that I have seen in Windsor, Ontario here. Pretty much identical building, but a little bit smaller, as if it's been sunken into the ground a little bit more. We have the old armory here. A castle. Well, there's no other way to describe it but a castle. And we got some very interesting on-the-ground inside footage of it as they have renovated this and turned it into a hotel, living quarters being up there, and this unfortunately just being a shell, really, of what it used to be. But regardless, the videos and footage that we got on the inside is very fascinating. So that is going to be what we're going to be taking a look at in this old world exploration of London, Ontario, Canada. Join us and enjoy. Alrighty, so the first piece of architecture we're going to be taking a look at in this video is St. Peter's Cathedral. As you see here, this massive, beautiful red brick church constructed in 1844. Wow, that's old. 1844 to 1846. This was the second edition of this church, as the first one burnt down in 1840 due to the Great London Fire. Shocker, shocker, another one of those great fires that we see worldwide around this time. Same time as all these wars are happening everywhere, all this old infrastructure being destroyed, all these random fires popping up, and we only see now are the remnants of it. Yeah, so created and built between 1844 and 1846, when the population of this area was only 2,500. Not a lot of people, quite the undertaking to have something so symmetrically precise and so beautiful and all these very ornate details, especially as we see towards the top of the tower here with these little arches that we got going on here and these very interesting antenna-like spires that we see here. Now let's look at this building from a couple other angles we got here. This is a little side profile here, so you see how long this is. It is quite the big building. Then we got what has been a modern day extension here. So not a part of the original construction. You can tell within the stonework there and the aging of this concrete or whatever material it was used to build that. Nice, beautiful, massive window here with, once again, some more pretty ornate, beautiful brickwork that we see here for the year 1844. Now, this is where it gets pretty interesting here. When we take a peek here, this is from across the street here, looking from St. Paul's Cathedral and Basilica. And when we zoom in with this Nikon P1000 that I have here, you see that this tower is just a behemoth. It paints the skyline with its presence here. And we see just a little more detail on what we got going on here with these antennas and spires and the precise geometry and these symbols. What do they really mean? What were they really doing? Are they harvesting ether? Are they symbolic of something esoteric within the religion that we aren't really made aware of today? I mean, it sort of looks like a cross, but is it? Not really. It does symbolize more of an antenna. So when we zoom in a little more here, we can see them a little bit better here. What do we really got going on here? What are these things' purposes? Is that a flower of some sort? Sort of looks like a pine cone, but not really, but sort of that pine cone shape, like that pineal gland with some interesting carvings within that too. That's quite the precise detail for an antenna so high up in the sky that you're not even going to see from the ground, especially for the year 1844. What are we talking about here? That's pretty interesting. Let me see down here. One of those flower type symbols that we see all over so many old world buildings worldwide. The same exact symbols from continent to continent. Very fascinating. But wait, there's more. As we zoom in a little more here with this Nikon P1000, incredible zooming capabilities on this camera. Very, very worthy investment for all you old world and official historical narrative researchers out there. Highly suggested. A little pricey, but it's definitely worth it. But as we see here, a little more detail. Still looks like a Playboy bunny there, doesn't it? Maybe this is a Playboy mansion back in the day. The London Playboy mansion, who knows? And we had to make it so beautiful so you can see what beautiful nuns we got in here dressed in little Playboy outfits. I only joke, but yeah, look at that. Quite interesting. What is this? What is the purpose of this symbolism and the carvings? Does it just look pretty, or does it serve some sort of old world purpose? Technological? Who knows? But there is one more symbol that I really, really am excited to share with you here. We're going to transition into this video that I took here. This symbol you're not going to really see from the ground. I had to zoom in with my camera to see exactly what was going on here. And once I did, my oh my, was I ever shocked. And just keep this in mind. This isn't the first time that we have seen this symbol I'm about to show you on these old world buildings. This is a constant theme worldwide going back thousands of years. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen.
I think having little tiny Polaroids would be beautiful of it.
Your eyes indeed do not deceive you, ladies and gentlemen. That is a swastika ordained on top of St. Paul's Cathedral here in London, Ontario, Canada. Very, very interesting symbol, a very misunderstood symbol that we see over thousands of years through every religion and every culture, yet we find it here in the 1800s on top of this church here in London. I find it very interesting, too, with this stamp here we have of the 1845. Look at the discrepancy in the shading of this concrete compared to the rest of the building here. Over here, all these little spires that make up this castle-like tower here, very weathered, very aged, very discolored. Yet when we see where they put the date on it, it looks brand spanking new compared to the rest of it. This is the theme that we see worldwide on all these old world buildings. Wherever the date is stamped, it always looks much, much newer compared to the rest of the building there. Or we see the, say the 845 centered in the middle, and the 1 looks like it's carved in there, as if they added on 1,000 years. Just a very interesting observation that we see here, right next to this ancient symbol, this swastika, which, like I mentioned beforehand there, we see all over a bunch of old world buildings, including the Penobscot building in Detroit, Michigan there, which I'm hoping to get on the ground within the next few days there in Detroit and finally get some of my own pictures and videos captured there. But that building is littered with swastikas all over it. A beautiful Art Deco building that is just out of this world. I'm very excited to see in person. Look that building up if you have not seen it, or stay tuned for my Detroit investigation. But nonetheless, here it is, the swastika on top of this building. Absolutely fascinating, out of place, and does not fit the official historical narrative as per usual. So next up, we're going to walk directly across the street here to one of the most magnificent and biggest churches I've ever seen in my life, with St. Peter's Basilica and Cathedral.
I have one more picture left, and I'm going to save it for that. Imagine living in apartments here, and then outside your window is all of this.
Just remember, we were making these worldwide, 1700s, 1800s, no problem, no power tools, horse and buggy. They ain't nothing but a thing, right? We had so much time back then. Of course we can do that. Of course we're sculpting weird griffin, dragon type symbol things and these absolutely massive, perfectly geometrical, symmetrical fucking behemoth of buildings. Right next to each other too, because church, right? But they're just all right next to each other because we just need a million of them when our population is so small compared to the size of the housing we have. God almighty. So impressive. So impressive. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Okay, let's just go by the official historical narrative real quick, right? These are churches. We made them as churches. This really doesn't seem too Christian. We have hybrid griffin, dragon beasts, demonic looking creatures, for lack of a better term, demonic, because I don't really believe it is. But what does this have to do with the church and Christianity? Doesn't really make sense. Who are you, my friend? That looks modern. Okay, let's even look at that. This face looks a little more weathered and old. This one looks like it was freshly put on. It looks a lot more fresh. A little bit of a refacing. But that's neither here or there. These creatures, what does this have to do with Christianity? And why are they on all of these old world buildings we see? The same symbols of griffins and dragons worldwide. From here in London, Ontario, to the US, to China, Japan, Russia, everywhere. Same architecture, same precise sacred geometry, same cymatic patterns we see in this, which is different frequencies that give off these shapes. And the exact same symbolism, worldwide, at a time when we were not connected, so we're told. Must be the money! So just from looking at those videos I took on my phone there, quite the impressive structure with beautiful ornate brickwork and pretty interesting symbology. Here is just a street view photo of it, just so you can really see the size of this thing. It really sticks out like a sore thumb, and just, it's a weird energy I get from it. It's not bad, but it's like there's so much more to it. Like it's so big and wide, chody, if you will, that it seems like it should be bigger. It should go down more. That's just the vibe I get when I look at this photo here. It just looks so out of place, like a sore thumb. Like there is more to this. And something I find very interesting here, just going up towards the top here, we got this little slot here with what looks like a podium. Like maybe there used to be a statue here of some sorts. Maybe they had it when they built this, if they did build it in the 1880s there. Maybe it was some Christian figure, or it was some old world figure, which I would not be surprised, as we do see in many, many old world buildings these slots here with statues on them. According to the official narrative too, and we can see it slightly different in the brickwork here. I found some very old photos where it wasn't until several years later they built this upper layer here where these towers and these spires are here. You can see the slight difference in the color of the bricks. These look a little bit newer compared to what we got going on at the bottom there. So, that hints at that potentially being a possibility. Or if they were there before, they were destroyed and they were rebuilt. Who knows exactly what the official narrative with that is and how it goes. I was not there. I did not see it be constructed. But we can see the difference in the colors here, especially as looking at this concrete or limestone, whatever it is that builds these beige parts there. We see some yellowing mixing with the white here, especially up here, and we don't really see that up here with these tower windows or whatever they are, these wind chambers here. Here's another photo here, a little up closer. You can really see that yellow color and just the beauty of this brickwork. My God, it is just absolutely gorgeous. I love this stone. I love how it looks. It's a very, very big building. This is a massive doorway, massive arch with some beautiful pillars with those pterygial representation with those flowers there. Absolutely gorgeous. Stunning shot. What a privilege it is to be able to go and do this stuff, boots on the ground there. I always highly suggest, if anything, if you're going to do this research, it's great watching videos and looking at this stuff. It is absolutely incredible doing that, but really getting on the ground and doing it yourself is an absolute game changer. So here we are. We look at some of these gargoyles, griffins, dragons, creatures that are on this building, which I just started to learn about a few days ago. I really started to dive into this whole gargoyle subject, and it seems that they were used as water spouts, which with this we can sort of see that we got the tiling coming down here and running down the back and off onto the ground there. Why it would have to be a creature like this, a stonework like this, in order to have a water trough, to drain water, that is beyond me. It doesn't really make too much sense. There's also the explanation for these things as gargoyles being protectors of the shadow realm and things of that sort, protectors of the unknown and demonic entities, sort of just overall a good luck charm. Still very interesting. So we do see these all over these old world buildings, and when this building was constructed, there was now roughly 20 to 24,000 people living in London, Ontario here. So a big jump from that 2,500 just 40 years prior with that other one. But worldwide we see these, and why the extra effort and all this extra detail just to make a drainage shaft when this one doesn't really look like the best? It looks like, if anything, it's going to make more of a mess. If this was made for that, it's just going to run down and go off all these different sides of the body and spray in the doorway. It don't really make too much sense. This one's a little creepier looking here. His hair standing up his spine, whatever is going on here. It's very odd for a church and not the most welcoming presence. This one looks like it just saw a priest doing something quite inappropriate there. We'll leave it at that with that one there. He is spooked. He has seen some shit, and my God, what these walls must have seen and must have known from the old world, the new world, everything has happened. It'd be amazing to hear what these walls have had to say. But there's another example of one of these weird looking creatures here. What do we got going on here? A little bee's nest, wasp nest, or is that a part of it? Interesting. Yeah, very odd. They also say in some circles that they put these on churches as a reminder of what hell is like and what will be there. So you best obey and walk through the doors that are guarded by these demonic creatures so you don't see them in the afterlife. I don't know. That's just speculation. But this is another really interesting symbol that we just see on the building here. One of these little flower type Fibonacci flow symbols that we do see on many buildings. I just thought I'd add it in there, as I am not too informed on what this may represent. It's like a lot of the symbols we don't really know, and the official explanation behind a lot of them is pretty choppy and dicey and all over the place and has many different explanations. So there's just another interesting one for you there. This I find very fascinating. This is a light that's right outside of the main gates there, as we saw in the original photos there, and I have seen this exact same one in many investigations now, and this is the third one that I have seen in person on these old world buildings. We have the Walkerville headquarters there for Hiram Walkers in Windsor. It has two of these absolutely massive lights right outside of its front doors, abnormally large compared to the doors and the size of the building. This one, it fits in a little bit more, but very interesting. We see it in a lot of old world photography, and old street lights and all that, and dangling over these streets, made of copper, it would appear, as it has corroded a bit to that green look that we know copper is associated with there. Always fascinating when we see copper incorporated in these buildings, with it being a conductor and used as antennas in the transfer of electricity and energy there. So that was a very interesting thing I found here. This is the cornerstone, one of the cornerstones here of this massive church here. This just says, when translated, if I remember correctly, it's Psalms 25 there. But it's something like, "Oh Lord, in this house, we are so grateful we have this house and this home. Glory to God," essentially. But just noting the discoloration within the stone brick here compared to the rest of the building here. It is slightly different there. If anything, this matches more of the gateway and the portal doors here, the color of that compared to the base stone there. So that's just an interesting observation we have there. This, unfortunately, wasn't able to go into the church here. The doors were locked when I was there. We tried to, but no dice. This is directly above that gate here. So right here is like where that light is. This is the main doorway here, and right above it, right at this cymatic window that we have here, we have this massive golden organ. It looks like, I'm assuming this is an organ, absolutely massive, right in front of the frequency shape, the cymatic there. That was just so telling to me, and absolutely gorgeous. I would love to be in one of these resonation chambers. That's really what these churches and cathedrals are. They are resonation chambers, playing these healing frequencies within the sacred geometry and the shapes of those frequencies. Just the level of healing and cellular health that must bring. Absolutely beautiful, but a very telling image. Absolutely gorgeous. Incredible, absolutely incredible. I'm just in awe by this. I would love to get a chance to go into one of these buildings with these playing and really feel and experience it in person. So it's a bummer we didn't get going into it this time, but there's always next time. Here's a little side profile of this church here as well too. As you see, as big as it is in the front, it is just as long going into the back, and it maintains most of that height going backwards here. As we look at this tower right here that we do look at right away, where they made this extension, where these apparently weren't here before, we can see these got like the green light copper look, but these aren't really, I would guess, I would wager, not really copper towers there, as that looks like it's a painted on matte green like that. But when we start to look at this one here in the back, and we'll zoom in this next video, this looks like it is genuine copper, and you can see the slight discoloration peeking through, not just like this. So yeah, let's get to that video for you right now.
Front facing, it doesn't look as big as it is.
You know what I've always said? I've said this since the day I was born. If you need a life insurance company, make the goddamn grandest fucking building you can possible with massive fucking pillars in London, Ontario. And if we're keeping count, there's one absolutely massive church. That one we were just at is right there. That's two. Right next to it, behind this massive building, is another massive church. Then we got another church right here. So just within this block right here, we have four absolute massive churches that, you know, all built roughly 1800s and all that, because, you know, we need 1 million fucking churches with low populations. And just we had all the time and the resource in the world to make something this beautiful and precise. Horse and buggy, baby. The power of horse and buggy.
No, you are not in Athens, Greece. No, you are not in Washington, D.C. No, that is not a temple. And no, that is not a government building. That is an insurance company building. Yes, an insurance company building of absolutely grand stature with absolutely massive pillars ordaining the whole entire frontal face and side face of this building with what seems to be massive limestone blocks that make up this entire structure here. Claimed to have been built in 1926 as part of the expansion for the London Life Insurance Company that was founded in 1874. Absolutely stunning building. Massive, absolutely massive. Here's a little side profile of it here with that 0.5 fisheye lens. Always making things looking absolutely gorgeous as we see the underside of it. There's no detail spared when building this building here. Even just looking at the lip of the roof here. Every individual little slot in detail. The absolute precision and beauty of these pterygial fields pillars here. It was absolutely stunning when we rolled up here in town late at night. We almost didn't come. We're at Rockland Falls doing that investigation. Then we ended up driving an hour to Grand Bend. Nothing was going on there. So like, you know what? There's karaoke going on in London. I sort of feel like singing. Let's do it. We got right with God. We followed our guide and said, go to London. We show up here at 11 o'clock at night. And each of these pillars just shining green lights coming up them as if it was like just a beautiful sign that this is where we needed to be. So we spent the night in the bus, woke up the next day, and we did a whole entire investigation here. Absolutely stunning building. Absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, built in 1926. Quite the undertaking. Quite the amazing precise detail in symmetry that we see in this building. And like I'm saying, the detail, attention to detail with every single one of these pillars here. Look at that. Beautifully done, beautifully carved in 1926 here. And that's interesting. I'm just seeing that now. That looks like a pine cone tucked in the corner here. Fascinating. Very fascinating. Second pine cone we've seen on this journey here. And just observing some of the details here, we sort of look like we have a flask or an urn of some sorts within this flower design. Interesting, very interesting, absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning. There's another frontal face shot of this building here. Got this little clock here, some beautiful design around it. I wonder if that used to be a cartouche beforehand with some sort of symbolism. We just added this modern day clock. Same with these here. Were these maybe portholes before? Windows going through, or did they have a cartouche on there? Or they just scrubbed them out and carved them out, and then we just carved London Life Insurance Company in the top of this building. Just absolutely stunning. And speaking of cartouche, we do have one here with the London Life Insurance Company logo, allegedly, carved into it. And, we can make that out if that is it. We see the L, London Life. Where's the I? Do you see an I? Okay, right here. London Life Insurance, C-O. Sure, yeah, I mean, it says that, but was that what was originally there before? I mean, was this scrubbed? It does look a little bit more clean than the rest of the structure here. And they could have just carved that right into it itself. Who knows? Or they did just make that for the purpose of this. That could very well be as well. But I am very interesting one. It's all this black discoloration we see. We're going to do a little research on that because we're seeing that in all the buildings we've been looking at today here. I believe that will bring us to a video here, which we will... we will insert here so you can get some proper audio on it. That is going to be investigating the sides of this here. As you see these massive, massive big windows at the bottom, all railed off, which is another recurring theme we see with all these very big buildings like this. These windows that tend to continuously go underground, and the official reasoning they give for it is to bring light to basement and lower levels. But also from a construction point of view, I took my cousin on a few of these mud flood adventures before and showed him this stuff, and he's been doing construction for years. And when we get doorways and entrances built into the ground going underground, and these windows that are for some reason underground, very small windows at that too, it really made no sense, and he was sort of baffled by it because, from his experience with construction, it would take even more money to dig these down, make these doorway and entrances, and then to start to install proper drainage so you're not getting flooding and all these other issues that you would get with windows and doors at and below ground level. It just didn't really make any sense, and it sort of stumped him, and that's what really got him starting to think, maybe you're onto something with this little mud flood old world investigation. So that was my experience talking to a quote-unquote professional when it comes to construction here. So yeah, let's take a look at that in this next clip here.
We went inside. They wouldn't let us take photos inside. But look at Mr. Mudflood windows down here. Because, it makes perfect sense to make windows underground. It's really great for water drainage. The inside of that building was gorgeous. The roof was all these gold ordained flower type shapes. Look at that. The clouds fucking rolling by. Just gorgeous. Just all around gorgeous. Beautiful.
And just before we transition into our next building we will be investigating, which is directly next to this building, another grand church, just a block away from the other two magnificent ones we've seen already. This is a little picture of the interior I was able to find online as we went to walk in there, and the security would not let us take any photos and asked us to leave. Shocker. But just look at this. Look what we are looking at here in this interior. Absolutely amazing marble pillars. These gold symbol on the floor. All this brickwork. The roof in the area we went into was a lot higher, slightly dome shaped, and these little golden plates were actually opened up and had this flower design, and I was just absolutely stunned and blown away. And it's been great to look at these other levels as we see this brass gold type color ordaining every single doorway and archway with these Phoenician shells and these other shell-like looking symbols. So absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. I hope one day we can get into there and actually get some proper footage of the place. So without further ado, let's move on to our next church. All right, so now we transition to Metropolitan United Church right next door to our insurance building here. This building here is built 10 years after the Basilica was built, because why not build another absolutely massive, ornate, beautiful brick church right next door? And I mean right next door. We are directly a block away from those other two massive churches. And like I said, it's built 10 years after that Basilica, so this was 1895, 1896, the construction of this building. And just look at it. Look how beautiful and ornate this is. The brickwork, the cross-like symbols that we have in here, and even coming up to this bell tower here. And yes, this was a bell tower at one point before we put the shutters on here, as you'll see in a later photo we'll look at here. But even these cylindrical little towers that we have here, just super ornate, so much detail for the 1800s and for a simple place of worship. And we just built these other extremely ornate and beautiful buildings. Absolutely fascinating, very interesting. And here's just a side profile of this building that we have here, just so you can grasp the size of it. It is actually very, very big. And going back at this back right side here, as you'll see in a video I'll show you very shortly that I captured as we were walking around it, there is just very, very clear evidence of mud flood windows on this, and this building potentially being much larger than what we are seeing currently, as if it continues underground for quite a bit, at least a floor or two. So yeah, we'll cut to that in a little bit here, but I just want to show you another very fascinating photo that I found here. Funny and interesting to say the least. Not sure the exact date on this photo, but you can see here some sort of parade we got going on, firefighters, police officers, something. And I say firefighters because look at these guys to the right here. We got this absolutely long, massive ladder with these guys just casually chilling and posing for a photo up there. Very odd photo, very weird. We got, what's this, Mothman here flying around in the background. But as you can see at the top of this tower here, we have no shutters on there, and we can see that this was a functioning bell tower at one point here. So very odd photo, very funny photo. And we see, the people who built it, the ones who hauled all this brick and all the limestone to build these things. We got our horses here, our Charlies, the good old trusty horse and buggy, the manufacturing technological techniques that we used back then to build these massive ornate structures. Speaking of technology of the past, we have this very interesting symbol right out front of the church here. This hexagonal, hexafoil, flower of life, etheric engine, technological device type symbol, which really resembles a microchip, if you ask me. And we see this in a bunch of old world structures, specifically churches and cathedrals, especially when we go over to Europe and look at some of those absolutely behemoth-sized buildings there. And we see this symbol imprinted in almost all of them. It's a very interesting photo, very out of place with the official historical narrative, and resembles what we now know to be microchips and computer chips. So it's very fascinating that we see that in front of this old world building here, this very weathered old world building. As we look at the damage to the brick and the shading in black, and we can see in prior examples and prior photos here too, we can see a more orange brick poking through there in some spots, but all around here it's just very weathered. It looks like it's been around for hundreds of years, if not 1,000 years. Who knows the official timeline on these things? But even the buildings you'll see around here are very fascinating, very old, and have some very interesting hints of the old world to them as well, as you'll see in this clip coming up soon. But I found this very fascinating within the sacred geometry, this hexagonal thing, which reminded me of the Freemasons, naturally. And I forgot to add this photo in our first church that we looked at there at the swastika. They had this right in their front yard there in the grass, a little commemorative plaque to the Freemasons, as we see absolutely everywhere. If you look at any graveyard, any gravestone, you'll find so many Masonic gravestones. I found that within my own experience. And even just looking at these buildings and reading the plaques and the little things they have around your towns and all that, at least in my area, Oddfellows and Freemasons, Order of the Eastern Star, absolutely everywhere. Even some other interesting orders that I discovered, like the Orange Order, the Independent Order of... There's a lot. The IODE, I forget exactly what it stands for, but I've discovered a lot in our surrounding area here, and it's just, another example of it being sort of right in your face and right there, and a little nod to the creators and controllers. So I'm going to cut now to this video for you, and let's get right to it.
More silly, funny, haha windows.
Silly goosey windows.
On super big old buildings. So many goose windows. It's beautiful. Does this go around? This building is much bigger. Much bigger once you go underground, it would appear. Well, I guess that's locked. But much bigger. Windows is continuing down. Oh, looks like we used to have some windows here that got patched up. As per usual. The great slant as well too, take that into account. Yeah, it seems a little odd. Is that a doorway? Seems a little odd. Like if it was taller, it'd make more sense. And there's the side of that building again. Incredibles. And here we have yet another.
The 43rd church.
43rd church in a span of 2 blocks. Copper spires, mercury balls, all intact. As per usual. Even the housing here. All these old brick buildings with windows mysteriously underground. Look at this little guy over here. Everywhere you look, and right down the street we're gonna be heading next, we got a fucking castle. Yep, you didn't think these were castles. This will definitely give you your Standard castle vibe. The Great Wars of London. London, England, the roadmen fighting. Can you believe such a thing?
And that silly little recording we took there sums it up pretty good. Yet another church. Might as well be the 43rd church within like a 2-block radius here. And another behemoth-sized church. This one being built in 1874. So 10 years before the Basilica and 20 years before the last one that we just looked at there, the Metropolitan one. So within 30 years, we have put up 3 absolutely massive and, may I say, unnecessary churches if we are going to accept the official historical narrative. And as you saw in the video too, the houses that all surround it, they all look very old world as well too. These beautiful brick structures, big arches, pillars, and these windows that mysteriously continuously go down underground. As we explained before too, like mud flood windows, like yeah, sure, you can justify them saying it brings light into the basement, but specifically on these ones, we see the exact same window, the window arches and window sizes that just seem to go underground. And we get some very good examples of this when we are in Watford in Ontario there. I'll add a little picture of that in right after this segment here, because you see these windows just melt into the ground with this interesting slant construction that we did for some reason. No, it makes no sense. You'll see more clearly when I add those in there, but as we just look at the back of these houses right here too, just more examples of these old world buildings. We're not just talking about these massive churches. Every single building and house around this area is built like that. And you'll see that once we go down Dundas Street when I add it at the end here. I'll also do a little video collage of all these buildings and the weird symbols and the varying old world construction styles we see and colors of bricks. It's just absolutely fascinating. And yet again, with this church here, just an absolutely massive copper spire going all the way up with a little mercury ball of some sorts here, just bringing in that etheric energy, grounding it down through this church and generating whatever it is this may have been generating. So it's another absolutely fascinating example of the old world. And now we go to the cherry on top of all this, the great castle of London, Ontario, which is just a hotel now, because that's what we do. We take all these old world infrastructures and these beautiful castles and incredible stuff and just dumb it down to hotels and such. So boom, let's take a look at these little mud flood windows from Watford real quick, and then we will segment right into this castle. And here's the example of those mud flood windows I was talking about in Watford here. This is from a couple years ago when we first went to Rockland Falls, me and a couple of my friends here, and this was just the most glaringly obvious scenario of mud flood windows. As you see right here, we have just a sliver of it showing, but those go down to full-size windows. Then as the slant continues, it gets bigger and bigger. Just makes absolutely no sense, but fits perfectly within the mud flood narrative. As you see a little closer up there, it's just peeking through. You really need to have that to generate light. This is an excuse for that. We have this 2-inch window just so you can bring light into the basement. Doesn't really make much sense to me. It's quite confusing. And as you see here, much bigger, and that's a full-size, basement down there, as you can see. Much bigger here. This one's boarded up because too much light. We only need 2-inch ones. That's a little too big for me. We don't need that much light in the basement. I'm obviously being facetious with that, but I mean, what are we talking about here? This is absolutely incredible. And this is just at the back side of the building here too, which has since been renovated since I've been up there last. This is no longer there, but I found this very curious as well too. Just hanging out and peeking out there, and some of that old brick and rubble just hanging on, but that no longer is with us, that part. But I can in fact say that these are, and maybe we're going to put together a little Watford investigation there, because I think this is a very well preserved old world town. There's a very small population, but every single building is beautiful brick. Absolutely is incredible. So we'll work on getting that slapped together, but that's not the subject of this video. So let's hop in and transition into the castle.
All right, believe it or not, we're at 6 or 7 churches now in the span of a few blocks, and massive churches we're talking about. And just for a little cherry on top, although I'm sure the second we walk up to this, we'll find another church, as per usual, but we thought we'd just drop the Castle expansion pack for you. Castle DLC is now live, or should I say hotel? It is a hotel. That's my bad. Because what better purpose for a building such as this than a hotel? You know, we'll plaster the insides with, you know, standard drywall and your very brutalist architecture type look. All right, let's walk up there and I will roll the dice and bet we're gonna find another massive church because, you know, that's just how we roll.
Yeah, so we are not far off from the truth at all when we call this building a castle, because it literally is a castle. What are we talking about here? We got the towers here, the guards. I forget exactly what those are called, but I mean, this is a castle. This is the old London armory the militia and military used in the 1900s, which is now the Delta Hotels, as you see there. And we see a very, very similar armory in Windsor, right near me, 20 minutes away there. And it's the exact same looking structure with these towers, the exact same brick to stonework, except it's like cut in half. The ground essentially starts here, and it looks oddly sized for its height. The size of the towers it has, it looks like it is much bigger. Like it'd be a little closer to this size, if not bigger. This even looks a little small compared to the size of these towers and what we got going on here. And just looking at it from the front, I mean, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here, guys? I mean, for an armory, for military training, and for storage of stuff, I mean, these stone bricks look very weathered and very old, and like it's been standing here for a while, and it's just so out of place, and you know, an absolutely incredible structure. And as we'll see at this building too, is yet another example of those mud flood windows. As we get closer here, it's exactly what we see. Just like the London life insurance building, just like everything. Especially with all these big old buildings like this, we always have it fenced off for where it drops down there. So it's very fascinating. It's very weird, and doesn't really add up too much. And as you see here, they said it was completed in 1905. London Armories, attributed to the Department of Public Works architect T.E. Fuller. Wow, well, we are full of knowledge after investigating this. It was the home of the militia units of the Royal Canadian Regiment, the 1st Hussars, the Royal Canadian Artillery, Royal Canadian Army Service Corps, and the Royal Canadian Engineers and the Army Medical Corps. Sure it was, but was that what it really was originally? I highly doubt that. And we worked our way inside there. Got some photos and videos, and this is just an example of what the inside looks like. It is really a skeleton of what it used to be. It has been completely gutted, and we just see a little bit of the brickwork that is left there, which is still absolutely beautiful. And once again, we see those massive archways and just beautiful brickwork. Beautiful yellow brick here. And just wait until you see these videos that I took walking through here, and it's really cool. I'd like to stay here. This pool area is absolutely magical, if I do say so myself. So let's go to those videos right now just so you can see what I'm talking about.
My goodness.
Just an absolutely stunning castle, hotel, armory, building, whatever we want to call it nowadays, as you see. And we peeked out the window there too in that pool area. You just see more of this old world architecture in the horizon there. So I'm going to add in a few pictures from Dundas Street there and all those other streets that I have gathered. Just some smaller commercial type buildings there that really caught my eye and have interesting symbology and brickwork, just like we see here on this building here on Dundas Street. We see a clear cut griffin. that interesting griffin. It looks like it's got a little crown or a flower petal on his tail there. Just an absolutely obvious example of symbology of the old world and Tartaria and things such as that. What these truly represent, who knows? We don't know at this point in time. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to know within our lifetime, but this video is already nearing an hour here, and I can continuously go on more and more with every single one of these buildings. Those last few there, we tried to cut down the explanation just to try to keep it under an hour, but those who are into this work will know the longer the videos, the better and the juicier. I always go for the longer one, so I'll leave you with this little video collage of these buildings here. I hope you guys truly enjoyed this video as much as I did investigating and putting it together. If you do enjoy, comment, like, subscribe, share it with someone who might be interested in this, and share your comments in other places you may have explored or other buildings within London here that you're aware of, because there is absolutely much more. This was only within a 2 to 3 block radius of what we captured, and that is just what we took pictures of. As I said, there's much more buildings like this within this area, and London is much bigger itself. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.